Happy Thursday. Today is Thursday, November the 19th, 2020, and today's daily Bible readings come to us from Psalm 100, Genesis 48, 15 through 22, Revelation 14, 1 through 11, or you could have read Psalm 95, 1 through 7, and then 1 Kings 22, 13 through 23, and then Revelation again, 14, 1 through 11. And I'm going to talk about this section from Genesis 48, 15 through 22. Because it's all about blessings. And this is a really good time of year to talk about it. The texts for today are actually preparing you for the Sunday lectionary, which is an important Sunday because it's Christ the King Sunday. Unless I'm mistaken, we shall go ahead and look ahead because I have this book that lets me see the future. And yes, it's Christ the King or Reign of Christ Sunday. And that's a big deal because it's the finish of the Christian year, the Christian liturgical year. The church has its own calendar that is organized around the life and work and mission of Christ and the inheritance and heritage that we have in faith. And like I said, this Sunday is the end of the Christian year, and then it's not Christmas; it's Advent. And so this is a time of year, and also coming up on Thanksgiving, when we gather together, and which is a secular holiday, but it has roots in this idea of counting your blessings and listing out and being thankful for things. Although I'm not really sure how well we really do that. But anyway, so that's what the text is about today. It's about blessings, but really it's about inheritance. It's about passing on an inheritance, and which kind of leads to the question, what really is an inheritance? And I think, we worry a lot about stuff when we think about inheritance, right? So when, when my sons were younger, my wife and I, we took great pains to write out a will. And if you're a person young in life and you're looking at that, looking down the road, you probably need to be thinking about that more than you realize. But there are things that you do in that are important, like making sure that if something happens to you or both of you, that your children are taken care of. But then, a lot of it's just about stuff, like what happens to the property and what happens to your funds and things like that. What happens to this, this stuff, right? And we worry about a lot about stuff when we think about leaving our legacy and leaving an inheritance behind. Like I said, we worry about money, we worry about property, we worry about all the junk in our storage locker. And that's what I think sometimes we think is our inheritance. It's the thing that's the thing that matters, and that's what we worry about. But is that the stuff that really matters? Are we really thinking about the right things? Are we really thinking about passing on what really matters? So that leads to another question, but what really matters? Well, how do you pass along those intangibles? Those things, the intangibles that don't take up a lot of space in the self-storage. And do you even really spend much time cultivating those intangibles in your life? And what do I mean by that? Well, the really important things that should matter in a Christian's life and matter to a Christian, things like faith, hope, and love. Or are you just focused on the stuff? And this is something that, if you're a young person, you should be looking to cultivate those. Unfortunately, I think a lot of times when people hit that age where they're in high school and they're transitioning to college, or they're in college, we focus so much on getting a job that'll make you money. When really this is the time in your life where you should be really cultivating those intangibles in your life. And those are the things that should be the great inheritance that you have to pass on to other people. Whether or not you have your own children, those are the things that you can pass on as an inheritance to people. So, are you developing those things in your life, or are you just worried about stuff? So this is where we end up with this text in Genesis. This is right before Israel, the artist formerly known as Jacob, is leaving this world. He's about to die, and his son Joseph brings his two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, before him, and it says that he blesses the boys. And so he blesses the boys. I'm sure he blessed the girls too. And you, anyway, but here's the deal. Israel got it. Israel was at a point in his life where he got what was important. He wasn't really worried about the intangibles. And if you go and you read this blessing, it's what he really is praying for is that yeah, well, let me put it this way. Israel got it. Jacob might not have, but Israel got it. And he realized that the biggest blessing that he could give his grandsons was the presence of God to go with them. I think at the end of his life, he looked back and he realized that the best thing that ever happened to him was that God made a covenant with him, just as he had done with his father and his grandfather before him. And that is really what had seen him through. And it's not stuff. It's the presence of God. It's faith, hope, and love. And that was the thing he desperately wanted to bless the boys with. So if you're watching this and you're a young person and you're at this time of life where you're building for your future, right? Yeah, be concerned about things, the pragmatic things like health insurance and salary and the 401k and all those things like that. But don't forego this time in your life as an opportunity to really be investing and building in the intangibles, the faith, the hope, the love, so that if you have children, whether or not you have children, if you get to the end of the life, you're not looking back and saying, all I can point to is a storage locker full of stuff. Well, that's the DBR for today. Go forth, have a good day, and we'll be back tomorrow. Actually, Stuart Huggins will be back tomorrow to lead you in another DBR. Have a good day. Boop.